Every time I was there, Puff was there the whole time. You know, he got the Ciroc, he's on the DJ booth. He's the host of the party. I don't know. It really depends on the evidence, right? Because they did say that there were drugs in the baby oil. I've been to every party and
you go in the right room, not the wrong room.
I don't think there's room.
Right.
But if that is in fact true, then that is a problem. One thing I do know about Puff is that he's an abuser.
Leonardo DiCaprio thought he was stepping into a typical Hollywood party: cocktails, networking, and glamour. What he actually saw: terrified faces, guarded doors, and a system of silence that would haunt him for years. This is the story he just revealed under oath. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. The scene DiCaprio described could have been plucked straight from an old Hollywood fantasy. Soft ambient lighting, glasses clinking with champagne, and familiar faces swapping industry secrets. A crowd of elite stars and executives all laughing a little too loud and grinning a little too wide. It was the kind of gathering where doors seemed to open effortlessly for the rich and famous. But what he'd walked into was no ordinary party. This wasn't glamour. It was a trap.
I've been to every Puff party. I've been to every white party since 2009.
Right.
But if that is in fact true, then that is a problem. One thing I do know about Puff is that he's an abuser.
As DiCaprio wandered beyond the gilded veneer, the first signs of something darker started to creep in. Outside certain doors, men in suits stood rigid, their watchful eyes tracking every movement. Some hallways were completely off-limits, cut off by security who almost seemed amused at the thought of anyone questioning them. And then there was the silence, an eerie, oppressive quiet buried under the noise of fake laughter and indistinct chatter, like the party's pulse flatlined the moment you stepped too far. But beneath that surface, there was something organized, calculated.
I've been to every party and
you go in the right room, not the wrong room.
I don't think there's room. I said, Ray, did they ever invite you to a freak off? Because they never invited me. And I done been at these parties. I just feel like, why I didn't get the invite?
When DiCaprio found himself pushed into one of these off-limits rooms, the carefully curated illusion shattered. Hidden cameras mounted discreetly in corners. A group of young people lined up like they were waiting for what exactly? His unease turned to alarm when he spotted a girl, far too young to belong at any party, let alone this one. Frozen with terror, her eyes darting helplessly between the older men looming over her. DiCaprio's gut told him this wasn't a misunderstanding.
Every time I was there, Puff was there the whole time. You know, he got the Ciroc, he's on the DJ booth. He's the host of the party. I don't know. It really depends on the evidence, right? Because they did say that there were drugs in the baby oil.
This was power, unmasked. The boundaries of control became suffocating. When he tried to leave, his driver was not ready yet, stalling him with vague excuses. His phone lost service in a sleek, soundproofed room lined entirely with glass. Someone casually mentioned that they knew he was curious to see where the night might lead, words that felt like a veiled threat. Every detail felt deliberate, a reminder that no one left this place unless they were dismissed.
He's the host of the party. I will say that. Now, I've had this conversation with Ray J. Ray J is one of my best friends. If these freak-offs are happening, it's on a completely different day than the actual Puff parties.
Because they know you don't get down like that.
Maybe they know I don't get down like that. Okay, cool. But you would think maybe an assistant would come up and be like, hey, you like...
DiCaprio later described the feeling of witnessing something far bigger than a single night. This wasn't just corruption, it was systemic. And it wasn't designed to impress. It was built to silence. What if the parties weren't just about fun? What if they were a carefully constructed game of control? That's what DiCaprio's testimony suggests, and the coded word at the center of it all is lighthouse. In Diddy's circle, it wasn't just a metaphor, it was a warning. "You've been to the lighthouse. You know what it means now," someone told DiCaprio. The phrase wasn't about some luxury or privilege. It was a dark reminder that anyone who stepped too close to the truth was now marked, every move of theirs accounted for. The mansion wasn't just an epicenter for Hollywood's biggest names, it was a machine. DiCaprio described hidden rooms, camera control setups, and an architecture that seemed meant to monitor, not entertain. Entrances and exits were carefully guarded. Blueprints of the property, allegedly shared in an anonymous group chat, sketched out how these spaces gave Diddy complete oversight. Guests weren't just guests. They were players in a system they didn't even know existed until it was too late. And then there was that moment, standing in front of a small, locked room. DiCaprio said he heard faint crying, barely audible over the muffled noise of the party outside. When he pushed open the door, he saw her, a teenage girl, curled up on the floor, her face streaked with tears. Glass walls made the room feel too tight, too bright, like a twisted showcase. But before he could say a word, a shadow loomed. Security was suddenly there, slamming the door and telling him, "This doesn't concern you." Helpless, DiCaprio realized how little power he had to intervene. After he left, the threats began. An anonymous caller warned, "You saw more than you should have. Let it die, Leo." People in his circle pulled away. Film deals quietly fell apart. His growing paranoia wasn't misplaced. It was designed. Whatever happened inside those walls wasn't just to intimidate, it was to silence. But for DiCaprio, it planted a seed of resistance. Years later, as he stood on a yacht in Capri, that word was mentioned again: lighthouse. For him, it marked the point of no return. Leonardo DiCaprio's courtroom words cut through decades of glamour and secrecy. The party's over, and now it's time to clean up the mess. Aimed squarely at Diddy, the statement wasn't just an accusation. It was a declaration of war against a system that allowed power to smother accountability. Hollywood's sparkling facade has always hidden cracks, but this trial forced everyone to stare straight into them. "This isn't about fame or Hollywood," DiCaprio stated. "It's about a system that let one man do anything he wanted for decades. For Hollywood, those cracks are widening, and the silence is breaking.